The following is a conversation with Anne Cantera. Anne is a senior product designer at Optimum, which is a telco based in the USA, and previously was at LexisNexis as an AI experience designer, a legal firm over in the US as well. In fact, global, I think, LexisNexis. But Anne's got a lot of experience in conversational AI design. She's been working a lot on converting traditional button-based DTMF IVR systems into conversational voice IVR systems. And that conversation, or this conversation today, is about the work going on at Optimum, the role of generative AI in enterprise AI automation initiatives, as well as the role and space for a hybrid option, which is a blend of rule-based automation and generative AI, and why in many cases that is in fact the optimum solution. Get it? Optimum. This conversation is one that any AI practitioner or designer or product leader will get immense value from. Anne is, if anyone follows Anne on LinkedIn, which I'm sure a lot of you do, she is, an extremely vocal part of the conversational AI community. She's been absolutely madly passionate about conversational AI for quite a number of years. She's a fan of VUX World, so it's an absolute pleasure to have her along to share some of her wisdom and insights on this episode. So without further ado, this is Anne Cantera of Optimum on VUX World. All right, Anne, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Long time coming.
Well, I mean, I've been a fan for a really long time, so this is kind of a little bit of a pinch me moment. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you joining me. Likewise, I've followed you for a long time. I know we've spoken a lot of times in the past. You're kind of very much a advocate and a strong voice in the space, advocating always for good design and sensible practices and stuff like that. So it's, it'd be good to pick your brains a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd love to talk about it.
Good. So where should we start? Maybe we should start with about yourself, what you do, and I'd be interested also to know a little bit about how you got into this whole thing.
Awesome. Yeah. It's all connected, actually. And the story goes back. I built my first website in the late 90s. And lots of things happened between then and 5 years ago when I sort of came back into the tech world and went back to doing, website building, UX design, UI design. And then I always tell this story, but one day Rupa Chaturvedi posted, it was about 6 months prior to ChatGPT. And she posted about conversation design or AI or something. And it was like that movie scene where the angels sing and the lights come up. And I just, beyond my control, just knew that that was the path I needed to focus on. And from that day forward, no exaggeration, it's been 7 days a week, grind. I think I've taught myself a PhD's worth of information in a couple years because I'm still pretty obsessed. All I do is read and learn and watch videos and podcasts and all the stuff. And I tell this to a lot of people trying to break in. You get stuck in that loop at first where you can't get a job without experience and you can't get experience without a job. So I found my own jobs and I built freelance chatbots for people. That's how I got started. Voice flow chatbots for local businesses, for a friend of mine, for managing her podcast. And that was enough for Therese from LexisNexis to give me my first real enterprise job. That was over 2 years ago, I want to say. I'm bad with time. So what I did there was mostly working the IVR to AI conversion, which there's tons of work in that space, right? There's, the thing of it is it's voice design, and there aren't a lot of people who do voice design. There's more now than there were then, but fast forward to now, I am working at Optimum as a senior product designer / conversation design. But my hands are on the almost all the products. I'm in web, I'm in chat, I'm in voice, I'm in the app. And it's really interesting times because there's AI in interface design, and then there's AI in chat and voice, and I'm lucky enough to be doing both.
Mm. How would you describe the difference between AI in interface design and AI in chat and voice?
Well, it's there. I feel like they're actually starting to merge more. Um, Things are, but I think I break it down in voice is a very specific set of skills. I feel like, and so is chat, but I find chat for me, because I'm such a visual person, easier to design. And I know there are people who feel the opposite of that. But what's happening in UI is really interesting. From years of wonky, possibly is a nice word, chatbot experiences that left people with unsolved problems kind of in loops and not feeling great about the experience, that chat widget doesn't instill a lot of trust, right? And I've been racking my brain on how to redesign the widget and all kinds of things to kind of reestablish that trust. And what I'm finding is a lot of companies are just doing context prompted AI or chat. Like, let me give an example before I start stuttering. You're on the login screen, you get your password wrong the first time. And you're like, oh, maybe I'll try the other password. And that one's wrong also. At that point, it triggers some chat and says, hey, looks like you're having a little bit of a struggle, right? Meeting people where they are. I think that's kind of the newer concept that's been popping up, right? Like, instead of that widget, meet people where they are. And I don't know about everybody else out there, but I feel like we're still kind of feeling out the chat interface for what it's about to become. And generative UI is a piece of that. And I feel like generative UI, I'm finally starting to see some people talk about that. And it's some people call it adaptive UI, some people call it sentient AI. I mean, basically what it means is that the interface you're looking at transforms itself based on your last action and what it thinks it's anticipating your needs to be. And so I think is by saying things are going to merge, that's what I mean, right? Like, all the stars are going to align, and at some point things are going to mature past where they are now. And that's the really super exciting part of being a designer for me is, I'm famously quoting, my crystal ball, and my one of the girls at work calls me the Oracle, because I think, because I'm on the spectrum, I'm very good at pattern recognition, and pattern recognition equates to calling things out before they happen, seeing the patterns leading up to change. And that's what I'm calling out now is I think we're going to see a big merge between UI, chat, voice. I think we're getting truly more multimodal now. And honestly, I tell this to people all the time. I still think this tech is in its infancy. And when we talk about generative and we talk about hallucinations and we talk about this not working and that not working, it's like I always say, would you critique a child? Would you tell a child, you're hallucinating, or you're not doing this right, you're not good at this yet? It's like we're so early, and I know there are a lot of hardcore naysayers who are like, I know how this tech works. It's never going to be good. It's never going to be hallucination free. And I don't believe that. I believe there are people doing work where, yeah, maybe the LLM will still hallucinate, but the systems around it will keep it in check. So, and I know, Markowitz and at Parlant, and people are working on this. It's so early. So yeah, I'm super hopeful in the sense that things will these things will actually solve problems for humans.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's the good signs of that already in terms of the the more proactive kind of adoption feature. I know Lloyd's Banking Group do a lot of that kind of stuff. Like you're in the middle of trying to sort out some mortgage journey and it recognizes that you're having trouble and then pops up and it's like, hey, do you want to do this here? I've seen lots of good examples of generative interfaces over the last couple of years in terms of that as an idea. And I think ChatGPT's probably got its kind of fingers in that pie a little bit, especially with the Atlas browser concept, which is 1 minute it's a website, the next minute it's an agent, the next minute it's like you're working on a document and therefore the interface changes into a canvas and you can edit your document whilst you're prompting.
Yes, that was a kind of first glimpse, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of getting there. The pushback I got when I posted about this probably a year ago or so, were you interested to see what you think about this? The pushback I got was that how generative do you need an interface to be? Because if there is a kind of tried and tested good way of doing something, then should that not just be the way that thing is done? So an example would be like that ChatGPT document example is probably a good one. So we're in the middle of a conversation. I ask it to then create me an outline for an article or whatever, and then it thinks, oh, okay, right, now we're writing, therefore I need to bring up the document canvas, and then I'll do that. And then, maybe later on, it's like, one advancement of that would be now we start getting into the realms of creating a thumbnail image, and then it can put the thumbnail into the document, and so on and so on. Another example might be like, let's say I'm a travel agent, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about, I don't know, I want to go on a trip somewhere and here's my criteria, and then it goes away and finds me some stuff. As it presents you back now on a website, it'll be a list of options with images and titles and all that kind of stuff. If that's the best way of me filtering through a list of 10 options, then is that just the best way of doing it? So the pushback I got was like, Are there a certain number of modalities, if you like, that work particularly well for a given task, and therefore all we're doing is selecting the right modality for the task type, as opposed to actually generating a new interface for every conversation, if that makes sense?
Yeah, but to that I'll say, in my best New York designer voice, is it depends, right? I saw Brain AI has 2 videos that are super hard to find on YouTube, but they're there, where one was generative UI for shopping, where you just long press on the image and you can talk to it. Like, what size does this come in my size? What other colors does this come in? And it's answering as, so I think there's that merge between voice and UI happening there, where you can actually query something and get a UI response, where I think is super helpful. And even small things like, I feel like everybody's kind of heard about Erica, which I hate the female names on the bots. Please, it must stop. But Erica is Bank of America's agent. And I go straight to Erica every time and say, Erica, I need to pay a bill. She's like, says, which one? I tell her which one. She says, how much? I tell her how much, and it's done. So again, it depends. If it makes things easier and more convenient, we'll adopt it. Right. And if it doesn't, we won't. I firmly believe that, once we get voice isolation completely nailed down, which I think 11 Labs is getting close, right? And we can talk to our phones in an airport or when the baby's screaming and, or in the convertible, things will change again. Because I as far as agentic AI goes, I think it's going to be a lot of my agent talking to your agent and me instructing my agent verbally, switching to text when it makes sense. Again, Reuven Cohen put out an article last week about, Atlas is cool, but you know what? It's hanging on to a thread of the old way. The new way, we won't even need this. But I think there are people at different places in their journey with all this, and the concept of like never going to a website again is there's a mourning to that. Like it's a goodbye, right? Especially people who've been building websites and apps and all that stuff. Like you're messing with their livelihood. People don't like change necessarily. But I think we're going into the great period of trial and error. And when you're a weirdo like me who loves when things change and are different every single day, it's exciting. But to other people, there's a mourning piece to it. There's a fear of their jobs, right? My last podcast was about robotics and what's coming next, and it ended for me in a very hopeful note for the UX community, because I don't see how we can invite any type of robot, from a dog to a dish, washing robot, to anything into our homes without that UX design, without that UX research. Like these are complex things, right? That physical AI that's coming around the corner, and I'm really hopeful that will help bring jobs back, and all the people in my community and the UX community can start getting jobs again. And it's the job market itself is it's really hard to watch people struggle.
Yeah, I mean, websites, I suppose, have been declining for a while, haven't they, really? I mean, if you look at, the first thing to go was, I suppose, the kind of social aspect. So social media took a lot of traffic away from websites. So you didn't go to a website to be entertained anymore, because all of your entertainment is aggregated into one place. And so those websites that rely on entertainment or news had to then fight for their place on the social channels to remain in your brain, so to speak. And then kind of like blogs and the written word kind of came next, which was that some of it was abstracted into Google's front page, so you didn't have to click on the website anymore. Then you have like Medium and now Substack and all these kind of companies that are even LinkedIn to some degree, taking away the need to publish your own stuff on your own site. Retailers probably, I mean, there's a lot in social shopping and stuff like that, but retailers might be one of the last kind of areas where your website is crucial. But yeah, I think that as the interface changes, like we were saying in 2018, 2017, like when you first see Alexa, you can see what the future could be like. Mm-hmm. Everything's just an utterance away. The idea of ambient computing and stuff like that is definitely real. And I think that what's changed now is that because generative AI has captured so much momentum, it's got, and obviously the underlying technology is fundamentally better. So it has all the ingredients it needs. But I think you kind of like two things need to come hand in hand in order for this all to kind of go as we expect, which is, one is technology readiness, but the other is user acceptance, isn't it? And then you throw businesses into the mix, and you've also got business readiness and business adoption. So in order for that kind of like ambient computing potential to be there, I've got to be able to talk to Erica through ChatGPT or through the Atlas browser or through whatever it is, through Siri or whatever. And so businesses have got a lot. This is what fundamentally held back the Alexa platform, and it's what I suspect will also hold back the ChatGPT app SDK framework. Although I think that sounds more promising. But it's all about business adoption and business readiness. And so, how do you see? You're at LexisNexis, you're at Optimum now. How do you see those businesses kind of adopting these technologies in preparation for that potential future? How's the adoption? How was it at LexisNexis, and how is it going now at Optimum?
I think everybody's kind of realizing that their legacy systems need replacing, or at least attention, knowledge base, right? Get it together, right? And I feel like even Lexis and Optimum, everybody's aware. Everybody is figuring out what makes the most sense, what gets us the most bang for our buck, what isn't working, like how to prioritize. And it's really interesting and awesome to watch, because the CEO of Optimum recently said, our goal and our job is to just make things simple for our customers. And I was like, so pleased to finally hear it, right? Mm. Like Optimum it's a new day there. It's new leadership, new philosophies, and honestly, I have been absolutely blown away by my leadership. I always joke. They say people don't quit jobs. They quit managers. And I said, well, that means I'm never leaving because our leadership is very tuned in and very much wanting to make things simple for our customers. And I think that's a new shift. I that you can see it out in the world, right? All the dark patterns, all the loops of you're never going to get a human on the phone. Like I think people have reached their capacity to deal with that. Um, and that kind of correlates back to trying to plop AI on top of legacy systems, and that MIT study that said 95% of these AI projects are failing, and I don't know if I buy that number because I know that the IVR to AI conversions are going really well. They save a lot of money, and it's working out, right? We build hybrid, right? There's a little bit of Gen AI surgically added to these things. So, yeah, I think between Lexus, Optimum, but I think everybody else out there is just doing the best they can and trying to figure out how they're going to use this powerful technology without breaking the bank of completely redoing how they do business. And it's another one that depends. It's business by business, company by company, right? Like, maybe if your login is a really tough old legacy system and you want to make it easy for people to reset their passwords, that maybe you want to take a hard look at the cost of completely changing how you do that. Because again, it to me, everything circles back to sort of meeting people where they are. If they're on your app, your website, your phone, get their problem solved. That's period. Hard stop, right? Just, it's funny too, because sometimes we'll carefully craft, a sentence, like one sentence, like three different people will be like, you should do it this way, and you should craft this linguistically perfect. And then I get to the point where I'm like, you know what? People just want this stuff to work, right? Like, to me, make it work first. And then, have a 40-minute meeting about one word. You know what I'm saying? So, and that also too kind of touches back to AI on top of legacy systems. So I think people are doing the best they can to figure it out. It's a lot. It's a tall ask, and with things changing so rapidly, I think there's analysis paralysis, yeah. Right? When you're kind of afraid to move forward because, I love to chug forward without, that's just my nature. But when things are changing so rapidly, it really makes it hard to be 100% sure in your choices every time. So, it's happening out there. I think there are certain industries that are further ahead than others. But from where I've seen and where I've been, everybody's putting one foot in front of the other, trying to make their best possible decisions for the customers, for the business, and for the staff. But yeah, it's a big question with a lot of different answers.
Yeah. You mentioned there that you are utilizing like a hybrid architecture. How does that manifest itself? What does that look like, and why have you chose to do that?
As well as I do, there are certain areas where deterministic kind of falls off. I think one of the most common places Gen AI gets in the mix is for taking someone's utterance and analyzing it to be sure it's heading to the right intent. That's a common one. But then there's, the full-on ChatGPT wrappers out there that if it's low risk, go for it. I mean, one of my first ones, and one to this day, my favorite one, and the one that I have people tell me, and I go to your website to use your chatbot all the time. And I named it after a female, but it's because she's a famous female. My Julia GPT chatbot, it's recipes and meal planning and shopping lists and all that stuff, right? If it hallucinates and you buy an extra bag of flour, no big deal, right? Like, it's not that we're, going to lose your, somebody's data is getting stolen, or we're getting prompt injected and selling a truck for $1. So I feel like that, besides all the people out there working on the hallucination issue, and um, for a long time now, I think we're going to be building hybrid using Gen AI when the risk is low.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, maybe in banking, the risk is so high all the time, you're going to use it just in a, super sparingly, where it really moves the needle on some metrics that are important, not containment. We could talk about that. I hate that is a bit, that's a sore subject for me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think, you know, it, it depends. It depends on risk right now to me. That in my thought process, it's like how risky is it to use it here, and how much will it move the needle, and how important is the metric that the needle it's moving is on.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, what you're saying there is classification, question answering, where the answer of the question is less risky and you're not getting anything wrong. Is
Yeah.
that
But
currently the
also
way?
a full industry, right? Like if you sell makeup, right? And it hallucinates and says the wrong color. Is that even remotely, the wrong color eyeshadow, is that even remotely comparable to a mortgage process?
Mm,
Or it's sort of industry by industry, flow by flow, page by page analysis of the risks versus the rewards.
yeah. But in telco, though, where in the space that you're in at the moment, is there not an argument to say that, you know, people typically contact their telco provider when something's gone wrong? And
Yeah.
telco, I don't know what Optimum's like, but typically telco providers are not necessarily renowned for having low wait times, excellent service, and all that kind of stuff. So, like, there's already this kind of like mental model in the user perspective of like, oh my God, I've got to contact they've missed my bill again or whatever. So I'm already feeling like I'm not in the mood for this conversation. Then, for a certain demographic of people, they hear that it's an AI assistant or a virtual assistant over the phone and say, oh my God, that's the second thing that's going to piss me off because I don't want to talk to this thing. Does that then not put more weight on that thing getting it right? And therefore,
Mm-hmm.
so something that could be perceptively a low risk because, yeah, maybe you give them a little bit of a wrong information on, I don't know, whatever their query is. But given that they already don't want to have that conversation and they're maybe already a bit more pissed off or whatever, like, is that what you factor into this kind of discussion or not?
Yeah, for sure. And also that I think that reputation that telco has is exactly what my new leadership is trying to undo, which is to me very unexpected. And part of the reason why I really love being there is that um, the way they talk about UX, it's like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're so that's new and that's different. But also there's like a huge generational, I call it generational design too. Those people who, as soon as they hear that bot, start yelling, human operator, like that's and we talk about too, like, how do we design for different needs like that? Um, but yes, I don't consider what we do low risk. And we've been using the gen sparingly because of that. But also, I'm a UX designer. I have kind of service design in my blood. I always go to, why are they calling? Why can't they figure this out? Why aren't there instructions on the box? Why aren't there color coded this? Why aren't so I kind of step out of my lane a little bit and go, what's the root cause? Why are we getting billions of phone calls about password reset, right? Like who does that? A lot of people, apparently. Like there are people, and again, it comes back to designing for the cognitive ability of the person who is your customer. And I think a lot of us in tech too, we can't see the trees because we're so deep in the forest, and things we think are simple aren't to certain age groups, certain abilities, so I think it all plays in. Um, so we're well aware they're not thrilled to be calling us, and that's why I always come back to make sure it works. They just want their problem solved. Just make it simple, make it easy, make it clean, like make it so anybody can pay their bill. You know, at Lexus, we made it so all you needed was an invoice and a credit card and you could pay, right? My son's college was like that. They were like, it's obvious they want their money at any cost, right? So make it so you can so people can get things done. Don't make them jump through hoops to do things that should be simple. And I know our CEO feels the same way. So I can't wait to see what's to come in that sense, because my whole kind of thing is I'm an advocate for customers. I'm an advocate for workers, right? So I am always trying to help people upskill, be able to take their existing toolbox, add the tools that will get them jobs, right? But I'm also like a staunch fighter for the customer, and maybe because I've done design for people with special with different abilities, but I'm an advocate for people, right? So you can't be an advocate for people without being super aware of their needs and that the solution is either good or not good for them. And I have found if you speak up for your customers, it's contagious. And all those people who are afraid to speak up to the business, if you are out there in the front putting your neck out saying, this isn't right to do this to our customers, other voices will join you. And in the end, you know, you're advocating for the customers, but you're really advocating for the business. Like there are businesses that people like Costco. I don't know if you have Costco there, but people love Costco. They love it. They're so loyal. You can be that. Like there's no, the dark patterns that you think are saving you money or doing this or doing that, I don't think equate the same way as brand loyalty does. And I wish there was a mathematician out there that could say, all these things you're doing to milk your customers or to get more money out of them, it is not as valuable as just taking care of them in a really smart and customer-centric type of way. And I honestly, and maybe people will say you're crazy, it's not happening, but I do feel there is movement towards that, at least in my company. Maybe I'm just lucky to be somewhere that is moving more, you know, closer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Matt Dixon and his fellow authors in The Effortless Experience found a lot of that data. So in terms of the mathematician that you're looking for, that might well be in that book, because that is all about essentially providing the best possible service in the channel of preference for the business is basically a loyalty driver, and all of the other things that all of the other knock-on effects of providing poor experiences have a detrimental impact on loyalty, and there's a bunch of stuff that proves it.
100%. There's a lot of bad metrics out there. I would love to do a deep dive into bad metrics. I think you might have been the first one. Did you ever do an article that it was containment is a bullshit metric?
Yeah, that was like 2022 or so. Yeah, 2022, 2021.
That was you. That was years ago, right?
It was years ago. Yeah.
Because I took that and I said, file that away. You're going to need it in the future. and I did. And I wrote an article about, like, you know, why this is like, who made this up, right? This is not telling you anything that is really actionable.
Yeah, it's the worst metric you can possibly think of. I mean, it's easy to contain people as well when you just don't give them any other outlet, you know. Just box them into the call, and that's simple as that.
Put them in a cage. Same thing.
Yeah. That was the image I used. I think actually it was a cage, me in a cage. So your leadership is now saying that all they want to do is make things easy. Obviously, that's music to your ears. How are you positioning conversational AI and generative AI in that lens? How, in your mind, is the work that you're doing making things easy for the customer and thus contributing to those business goals?
Well, I don't think it's just voice, just chat. I think it's that they're very zoomed out and trying to create an overall experience, right, for their customers that work. If you're a website person, that's being improved. If you're an app person, that's being improved, right? But what we're doing now is making it so you can actually do things. Because again, what do people want? They just want to solve their problem, get things done. So we're trying to make it so if you need to troubleshoot or whatever it is, you can do it in whatever channel works for you, right? So if it's changing, going from a phone call to a text message, then that's what we're going to do. If it's from going from the app to a phone call, then that's what we're going to do. So I think a lot that the answer to that is you know dependent on which channel that person prefers and getting it done, period. If it's chat, voice, app, web, whatever it is, making it so they can just get the task at hand finished. And a lot of times that task at hand is very simple or should be very simple, but those legacy systems aren't all gone yet, right? So I think I'm hoping over the next couple of years we'll see big shifts.
One of the things in the effortless experience I was alluding to earlier is that the channel of preference is framed from the business's perspective. So some companies have what they would call like a channel of choice approach, which is as the customer, you choose how you contact us and we'll serve you in whatever channel you choose. Mm-hmm. The idea of the channel of preference is that from a business perspective, you say, for this particular need, you need to go to this channel because that's the absolute best place that you're going to get this thing solved. Mm-hmm. AI changes that somewhat because it means that you can offer certain things through multiple channels through the conversational UI, but it doesn't necessarily completely eradicate that. So an example would be a high cognitive load task might not be best to do with a voice UI because there might be some visual stimuli that you need to process that you can't get through that channel and so on. Whereas a simple, low emotive, low cognitive load task might be great to do using voice AI. Some tasks might be perfectly good to do in a chat channel using AI because you've got a lot more UI affordances there. It can be a lot easier. But at the same time, some things is just better just to fill in this form because that's basically all you need to do. So the idea of that kind of like effortless experience and the channel of preferences as a business to outline where you believe you can best serve people and then triage into those best places. And so you've got a mixture of different channels that resolve different needs. And AI will add complexity to that because it can do some things itself anyway. So is that the way that you're kind of thinking about it? It sounds kind of aligned.
And now computer vision is starting to get in the mix too. So, the multimodal experience is definitely, there's new additions coming, right? But if somebody calls and they need, I don't know, a list of something, whatever it is, text it, email it. It's the problem with it is figuring out what device is closest that makes sense for them, right? So, you need to know, some things in order to provide that effortless, frictionless, smooth experience. Like, I'm going to email this to the email on the account. It's like, well, I don't have access to the email on account, so you have to craft the experience that makes sense. Hopefully you have everything you need to know on that customer. But if you don't, it's okay, I think, to ask those questions like, do you want me to text this or email this? I think, it's kind of choose your own adventure, right? But it's like, it's choose your own frictionless experience. Like, all right, I see you live in this zip code. Do you want the store closest to that zip code? Yes or no? Like, I think it's perfectly okay to help people craft their best experience with a couple questions. But it's really nice when you don't have to, and it just seems to appear by magic. But I think we're all, working towards that perfectly smooth experience. But this is all new, right? So if we're designing with vision, we need a little practice to get to the point where we have voice and chat and vision and app and website and how to make everybody play nice. I think we're in the little bit of experimental phase there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so have you got anything live at Optimum at the moment then? Or is this all still stuff that's kind of in development?
We just launched our NLU.
Yeah.
And we're routing, using it to route.
Yeah.
And it's like plumbing, man. Like you want to flip this house and make it stunning. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to get to the paint and the finishes but you got to do plumbing first, right? Yeah. And that's how NLU feels. It's all this time, all this effort, all this energy. And it's like, we haven't put anything pretty in the house yet, but the plumbing is solid, right? The foundation is solid, and that's kind of where you start. Solid foundations, right? We did. Our team is amazing. So yeah, that and people do those AI conversions in different ways, right? We're going to implement the NLU and we're going to route existing. Right, that we're going to keep this Frankenstein between AI and IVR, and we're going to implement the NLU first, and then there's the other approach of we're going to keep press 1, 2, 3, 4, and put the bot behind that. And I can't tell you, I've done it both ways, and I still can't tell you which is better. But I know those are two of the approaches that are happening out there. And they both feel really good when you start getting your metrics back and you see what's going right. Like, to me, that's my favorite part, is getting back, looking at those metrics and saying, what's next? What can I tweak? What can I do better? How can I fix this? Like, that's my personal sweet spot, where I just love thinking about that kind of thing. Like, because it's like investigation, right? It's like, Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick. Like, why is everybody dropping off here? What's going on? And going and listening to the calls and figuring out, like, I love that piece of the work. And I think that's all part of the forward movement that we're all kind of going through, is figuring it all out, what's right, what's wrong, and how to make those best changes for everybody involved.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've wrote about that as well in the past. I call it high and wide versus narrow and deep. The high and wide being the classification and routing, the narrow and deep being the use case optimization or automation. And then one is that you build the front door, route to your existing stuff, and then use that to inform what you should start to automate. So it depends on how much data you have before you start. Then the other is you start automating the bits and pieces until you've got enough capability there, and then you overlay the kind of like high and wide over the top of it.
I mean, though, but what haven't you wrote about? I mean, you have been you've been guiding me for years.
True. Well, we try. I'll put that article in the show notes anyway, people can check it out. So this is in the voice channel. This one you were talking about. The NLU routing. Is this a voice channel or this chat? Yeah, voice.
But it will be Omni.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that's NLU from front to back. Is there any generative AI in there, or is it purely NLU?
There's a little Gen AI sprinkled in.
Yeah.
Yeah, helping us just hit the right intents.
Okay. And is that that kind of like when it drops below a certain confidence threshold or something like that?
Yeah. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say.
Okay, so. Fair enough. But it's working. It's working reasonably well.
Yeah. Yes. And what a feeling, right? Like when you get something like that out there and it's working, and everybody's kind of like behind their screens, and you kind of want to high five and be like, yeah, we got this big task handled, and that's a great feeling. But more to come, right? Like, that's just the beginning. So we got the plumbing in, right? Like, now we need to get up the drywall and keep going, right? And just keep building. So it's I don't know. I'm one of those people who really loves work and really gets jazzed about things that other people might find silly. But you know what? It shows in the work. It's like cooking, right? Like, you can cook something that your grandmother cooked and it just doesn't taste the same because you don't have grandma's energy, right? And I feel the same like with design. Like I hope my energy and my care for people is tangible in the things I design.
Yeah. Well, you can design two of the same things twice and they'll both be different anyway. It's the same, like, I cook now at this time of year, I tend to cook like a chili every other weekend or so. And I've got this recipe that I follow, which is there's a World Chili Cook-Offs website, and it's just full of these chili recipes. And there's one in particular that I do all the time. It's a really good one. And every time I do it, it ends up tasting pretty much completely different. I don't know if I'm not following the recipe right or what. I'm quite
well, because you heard of vibe coding. That's vibe cooking.
That's vibe cooking, yeah. I'm just like, just make it up as you go along. Follow the baseline and then that's it, yeah. But no, that's interesting. So I mean, that use case on the IVR is a good use case, and lots of companies have got some really great value from that kind of routing and stuff like that. Is the plan then to, when you say that's just the beginning, is the plan then to then figure out which use cases can then be automated from end to end, or is the plan to roll that routing out on more channels?
Both. But I feel like, when you do customer service, it's those top use cases are always similar, right? Make a payment, reset my password, whatever, troubleshooting, whatever. Across the board, that they're pretty similar. But the goals is to do self-serve. I think that's everybody's kind of goal with their IVR right now. But my goal is to do self-serve that doesn't suck, right? Because there's a lot out there that are tough. But again, that's I'm able to say that with confidence because of my leadership. So, that is a huge factor in design. Leadership and the business impacts, usually it goes against, they think there's a lot of, we're going to save this way, but it's not long term. I don't like short-sighted savings, but it's not really, it's above my pay grade to dictate such things. But I'm much more of a long-term effect person. Just make your customers love you. Find a way to make your customers love you.
Yeah.
It should be that simple. It's not. It should be.
I know. And I think that what's interesting is traditionally that notion of find a way to make your customers love you was really the kind of like territory in terms of at least defining what that should look like, was the territory of a designer. Obviously no company is just full of designers in the same way as no company really ought to be just full of engineers, but you kind of need both sides to work well together. But there is definitely, in the kind of UI, UX kind of field, it's more mature and therefore there's an appreciation of the concept of design. Whereas in AI, especially now in the last 3 years, certainly since the rise of generative AI, it's very much being viewed as a technical topic.
Yeah,
and therefore,
I think it's one foot in each, right?
That's what I mean. That's what it should be. But I think that businesses view it as a technical topic and therefore staff it with technical people.
Oh, I see.
Which is why everything is kind of like, there's so many examples of poor design in AI because it's largely an engineering.
Those are early chatbots, right? Like. Yeah, or I always joke like, I know a developer designed this bot. It's not necessarily true. It's like my own little joke bias, but it's interesting because I hesitate to put design engineer in my headline because I don't write code, but I could shuffle it around. And after my cohort that I'm about to do with Reuven Cohen, maybe I'll feel a little more comfortable putting design engineer in my headline. But I work more with developers than I do other designers. When in voice and chat, I'm with my developers all day, like all the time. And it's a nice hybrid approach versus design it, hand it over, be told no, you need to fix this, this, and this because we can't build it. So I love the work of having the engineers in on it from get-go.
Yeah.
I think it just saves time. I think it's more efficient. I think everybody's happier and can be more well-rounded. And I think in the end, engineers understand that we want our customers to love us and make these experiences great for them and great, which equals to being great for the business. But I think my direct boss said I want to build a diverse team, and I love that but I think it applies in different ways. And having a diverse team to me in voice and chat is having, your PM and your engineers and your designers and your metrics guys together from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think it just makes for a more fruitful ending.
Yeah. 100%. That's always been the case, isn't it? I mean, you look at, in the NLU days, all of the most successful kind of teams were multidisciplinary teams. So it's good that you've got an appreciation for that, because I think, as I said, I know loads of companies who, their AI teams, even though they're not necessarily AI teams, it's more applied AI teams, because they're not kind of like building their own models or anything like that. But all of those teams end up being very engineering focused, and they lack design often. I just think it's a missing part of many companies' teams.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with home building again, right? Like, if you just hire a bunch of construction guys and hope for the best, you might not get a very sweet looking house in the end because you skipped over your designer. Like, I see it all the time. Like, I'll see a new house go up or a reno, and I'll be like, ooh, somebody didn't have a designer. It's, to me, it's so evident in all different ways. But yeah, I just think the term designer kind of rings in a way to some people as almost frivolous or disposable. And it's like, call us architects, because that's what a lot of us really are. But then that impedes on the development terminology of architect, so they don't like that. So I mean, I think designers just need a rebrand of what we're called and the respect we get. And I guess it depends on where you are, but yeah, I think we're overdue for a rebrand. But I'm a lot of people aren't very hopeful for designers and UX in the future, but I am one of those oddballs who are, as long as you're willing to sort of pivot and start looking at things through a different lens, and getting some new skills. I think we're going to be okay. I don't think AI can do everything.
No.
Right. So I creativity is not inherent in AI, and it is one of the best things about being a human. And creative problem solving, creative design, creative, creative energy does a lot for a business, and it does a lot for a project. So I just think that there's a lot of negative feelings about AI out there, and I get it. But I want to be one of the ones that is kind of hopeful in my predictions of jobs coming back, because it's really terrifying out there right now, where you see somebody who's been a designer for 20 plus years, who's been out of work for a year and a half and done 1,000 applications and got 2 interviews.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening out there right now. And I think it's because of the flux. I think once we find our ground, and we start building and getting into a cadence, and companies stop being scared, and things change, hopefully soon, I think things are going to come roaring back to a certain degree. Not if you don't upskill, though. I think upskilling is the key to everything right now.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I don't think design is going to. I always go. I don't think it's going anywhere. I always go back to the Steve Jobs quote, which is that design is how it works, not how it looks. And I think that's what's missing in AI at the moment, is that not enough people are thinking about, not necessarily the how it works as in how does this LLM work, but the how it works as in how does this use case manifest itself in a useful way for the user? What solutions do we need? What type of technology do we need? What should the experience be like at every single turn? I think what's lost, what was good about the NLU days that's been lost now, I find, is that it's become a shortcut to getting something stood up, rather than a tool to enable a better experience. So it's like anyone can access the APIs, just build some shit and there you go, Gen AI is great. Rather than, like, let's say you take the same approach as you took with NLU. right? Take the same approach. Okay. What does this use case look like from beginning to end? What turns and sequences are involved in this conversation? What's the path to getting someone to the end result? And now let's imagine that 80% of conversations, broadly speaking, traverse a similar type of path to this. What's the best way that we could optimize every one of those turns? Right, well, we might use generative AI for classification here. They're going to have these bunch of questions, so we'll use RAG for that. But then we're going to need to call this API and follow these 3 steps. So then we're going to need some determinism here. If you approach it from that perspective, like how do we design the best possible experience? I think that's the trick to getting these things working well, rather than just RAG bots that answer questions and don't go anywhere, you know?
Right. Systems thinking, new tools in the toolbox, right?
Yeah.
If those are the 2 things I could tell people to, and all the content I create is pretty much about all these things, right? I what UI will survive in the no-click internet, right? We're still there. We still need UI. It's just going to be less, right? But there will be new phases of it, and there's some things that will never go away. Shopping experiences that we enjoy shopping for, gaming, socializing, and receipts, right? If I'm going to have all these agents out there doing all these things on my behalf, I want proof of every step it took, right? That'll be a whole kind of new phase of UI. I think it's exciting times, period.
I agree. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Long overdue. I'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes if you're happy with that. I know you do create a lot of content. There's a lot going on. So
I have a huge resource library. I give an AI UX library. I give it to you for free. Just DM me and I'm happy to share it with you. I have tons of content. And I have my Designathon podcast, which is the last Saturday of every month. Always around what's happening in conversation design, what's the future looking like, and helping career pivoters or new grads get those new tools in their toolbox.
Nice. Perfect. Nice one. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes, Anne. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Bye.